of questioning. Ms. Keenan, thanks for your testimony. You mentioned that currently the VA sends the names of all veterans who have fiduciaries to the NAICS, the NICS system. Can you explain why this violates due process and is harmful to veterans?
Thank you for the question. The VFW believes that veterans are owed due process in this process. It is clear, and we've discussed it today, that is lacking in this process and unfairly discriminates veterans from a step further that is necessary to determine if they should even be referred to that list.
Thank you very much. You mentioned that the Social Security Administration does not report information to NICS of people who have been assigned a payee. Why is this?
It's our understanding that the Social Security Administration has a rigorous process if they are ever to do that. And at this point, the VA has a simplified process, and we think that doesn't go far enough to screen veterans, to look at additional medical evidence to understand if they should be referred to NICS or not.
And Ms. Keenan, finally, thank you for pointing this out. It seems to me that veterans are being held basically to a different standard than the rest of the population. They're simply being deprived of their Second Amendment rights, and I, as many of you do, believe that this is wrong. Can you elaborate on how this is a complete violation?
So the assumption that veterans are at more of a risk of violence or harm to themselves or others is in and of itself a harmful notion. Veterans, their rights should be protected. They serve this country to protect our nation's rights, and so we ought to protect their own individual rights. And our fear is that, as VFW members tell us, that the mistrust with VA and seeking mental health care is a major issue, and we need to take that into consideration with these policies.
And Mr. Lyle, you made mention of that as well, that there are veterans who do not seek the treatment that they not only have earned and deserve, but need because of fear of losing their Second Amendment rights. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. I think when you look at this problem in context, less than 50% or about 50% of veterans don't utilize the VA, or not enrolled in VA healthcare, and even less use it on a regular basis. I would assume that some of those veterans don't use it because there is a perception, now whether it's right or wrong, it's still felt true, that their Second Amendment rights would be infringed upon if they sought health care, not just mental health care, but especially mental health care at the VA.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Carey, we've heard that no other department or agency uses this policy of reporting to NICS, thereby putting into action whether the VA themselves are responsible for implementing it or not. It puts into action the process of violating Second Amendment rights of all of our veterans. Is there a special carve-out? Are you familiar with any special carve-out in the Brady Act, or is this just an overreach by the VA?
I was a Senate staffer back in 1998, and I remember when this is all going down. And what I remember is that the Clinton administration was concerned that there weren't enough names in the NICS database, which is a big part of the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act, and that they were looking at ways in order to be able to make sure that all the federal agencies were indeed reporting. Now, you know, the Department of Defense agencies that were talked about as reporting, that's the dishonorable discharges that they're reporting. They're not reporting mental health care cases. They're not reporting financial mismanagement cases. They're only reporting the dishonorable discharges. And Social Security Administration, you know, to the extent that they do find incompetence, they only find incompetence when when a court order says so, and they don't report. But as I understand, you know, during that process, basically VA was called upon to start, you know, to comment on their regulation and to say, well, hold it, we have all these fiduciaries. They should be classified as mental defectives, and we'll start reporting that. And that's where it came from.
Thank you very much. Ms. Keenan, one last question for you. I myself have hosted at my ranch in Montana several Wounded Warriors programs, and the hunters come out, and whether they're pheasant hunting for the day or deer hunting for the day, the Wounded Warriors program and the sponsors for the day typically purchase firearms for those veterans that they keep, they retain. So would then they be in violation of federal law or in conflict with this statute that is currently being implemented by receiving as a gift a firearm from Wounded Warriors program when they otherwise would be prohibited from going to the sporting goods store and purchasing one if they had been utilizing the services of a fiduciary?
That is a possible scenario, unfortunately, and if they indeed have been reported to NICS, that could be an issue for them.
Thank you so much, and I thank you all so much for your testimony. I will now turn to Ranking Member Takano if you have